that is paid when we have professionals that are supposed to do their job, but they don't. And Chair, there was a question with regard to any consequence management took place, if there was any consequence management took place with regard to senior management. So if when I refer to senior management, I'm not referring to any senior management. I'm referring to Section 57. You know, whether, because they're the ones actually who are supposed to lead this municipality and advise council accordingly, you know. So, but they don't do that. And this municipality keeps on spending lots of money defending litigations after litigations, failing to advise accordingly, but there are no consequence management. So I had to say there seem to be a bunch of failures that are here before us, but no consequence management. So it's a worrying factor, Chair. It's a worrying factor because these matters, they keep on recurring. Nothing happens. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mtolo. Was it Honorable Buthelezi, Honorable Tereko? Let's just go along the line. You'll both get a chance. Honorable Buthelezi, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening. Chair, I've just been sitting here and getting very worried because my question really is now, when you look at all these matters we've been dealing with here, it's really like peeling an onion with, with all tears running down your eyes. And the question really arises to say, when so much time is spent in litigation, and a lady, excuse me, what time is left for service delivery? I mean, we are really swimming in legalities, and it would seem the question also arises, Chair, as to do they have the wherewithal, or is it a question of shooting in the dark? Because I think that there's no question about it. An inordinate amount of time is spent on legalities, gentlemen, and a lady there. So what time is left really for service delivery? That's really the main concern I have. And with all these legalities, could you please share with us what is the quantum of the legal bill right now? Just please let us take us into your confidence. What is the quantum of the legal bill? I think that is very, very important because it will give us a very good picture. And then also, I don't know, unless I missed it because I wasn't in the first part of the meeting, as to what percentage of the revenue is remuneration for the executive or the senior people that are here today. I asked this question yesterday, Chair, if you may recall. I'll ask it again. Maybe I will not be unfair to say they must answer it here, but even if they just go away pondering about this question, that if you think about all that we are going on, because we are swimming for life to save life, if one looks at what we are doing day to day, that if you all taken into consideration, do you believe you are the right jockey for the horse? The horse being Buffalo City. Consequence management, enough said by everybody. I've not had one piece of information on which heads have fallen, and really even the policy on and steps that have been taken, Chair, on consequence management. Thank you, Chair.
Very much, Honorable Tillis. Honorable Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Partly covered by my colleagues. However, one of the issues that we raised with the municipality during our joint oversight, it was the issue of the evergreen contracts, which was raised as a concern in the municipality. Can the municipality please take us along on the status of those contracts to date since we met with them? And then secondly, it's on the post-audit plan. We've been with the municipality and they have seen some of the things that were highlighted by AG, such as material irregularities and stuff like that. So what is important is that you also put financial oversight mechanism in place. So I will firstly want to check with you which department that has the highest rate of irregular, unauthorized and wasteful expenditures for this financial year. And what are the recovery or disciplinary actions that you are anticipating to take should you find faults on your officials who contributed to that? And it's also on the issue of your annual financial statement when you submit them. Do you have systems in place that you use to check your financial statement before you submit them to AG? Because what we've observed is that many municipalities are paying consultants a lot of money to compile their statement, but yet when they submit, the AG still find some serious things that needs to be corrected on those statements. And so will you also take us along as to who does your annual financial statement? Is it in-house or you are outsourcing? And if you are outsourcing, how much have you spent on your financial statement? And Chair, lastly, is on the issue of governance and compliance, whereby we want to check with the municipality as in today, what are the mechanisms that you have in place in order to ensure that your municipalities comply with MFMA supply chain management regulations? And what are your risk management and prevention measures in place in terms of ensuring that you prevent the possibility of material irregularities repeating themselves? And lastly, what are the proactive measures to put in place to ensure that there's an accountability and compliance before the next audit period? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. If we can get answers to the members' questions in order. You can also bunch them where they relate to the same thing. So I also asked a question about consequence management on that sponsorship issue. So if you can address all of us on that at the same time.
I'll give Councillor Kyale, Councillor Chaka, City Manager and CFO.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would request, Chair, through you, after I'm done my input, then we hand over to Mr. Nongongo, because it will be interrelated, and I would appreciate that he expands. It's around the question that was raised by Honorable Kubeka on the wastewater treatment plants. The issue of the
Kubeka.
Not the Kubeka.
Kubeka. Oh, hey. Oh, okay. Kubeka, I know. God. Kubeka is newborn. To Kubeka. No, pardon me, Honorable Kubeka. on that one. Excuse me, but it's really a historical matter, and probably Mr. Nongongo will cover me on the technical aspects of it. But it backdates to 2010, when the last renewals were made. The municipality had constantly written to the Department of Sanitation in relation to the renewals of the wastewater treatment plant licenses. And I think it was in 2016 when they had finally responded. But at the time they had responded, a pro-amalgamation of the regulation had then been effected, which was 2016. And this regulation had a numerous issues that it wanted as a prerequisite before one could obtain a license. Now, part of what was requested was that in the treatment plant, the municipality must then provide evidence to the Department of Sanitation. And that evidence was that it should then give reports and certifications that the underground water were not contaminated. Yes. Now the thing is, to do that, it meant that the municipality must then drill boreholes and test that. And at the time that the municipality was responding to that, it was nearly COVID time. But during this administration, the municipality then set aside money, and that money was 7 million, so as to ensure that that program then is realized. And thus far, 6.9 million was spent on that project. But I would then give Mr. Nongong, who's the acting HOD for sanitation, just to give and expand on the technical aspects as to how many boreholes has been drilled and all of that, so that we can at least appraise you on the developments. And I would gladly request Mr. Nongongo to equally amplify what I've said insofar as the program of getting those treatment, wastewater treatment plant licenses. Mr. Nongongo, through you, Chair, as I had requested.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Co-Chair. Good evening to both committee members of SCOPA and the COGTA. Maybe firstly, let me start by explaining the process of the water use licenses for treatment plants. The Department of Water and Sanitation, I think it's in terms of Section 21, issues water use licenses for wastewater treatment plants, and these licenses are issued for a period of 20 years and reviewed every 5 years. Now, the Buffalo City 15 wastewater treatment plants had these licenses expiring between year 2005 and 2009. So they had these 20-year licenses, and depending on which year each license was issued. So between that year, 2005 and 2009, the 20-year period ended. And once a 20-year period ends, you start from scratch to apply for a license. Unlike in between, every 5 years there's a review, but once the 20 years ends, you start from scratch for an application. So the municipality made an application for the licenses in 2008. At the time, the Department of Water and Sanitation has just started the program of green drop, blue drop certifications for wastewater treatment plants and water treatment plants. So at that time, there was no response from the Department of Water and Sanitation. So all of those at the time that expired, in fact, at that time, all of them had expired. Except one, I think they expired in 2009. So there was no response. And then in 2010, again, because there was a follow-up blue drop, green drop certification process, the municipality made another application. And when there was no response, and then the city requested that the department submit a confirmation that they have received the applications. Because at that time, the green drop process application has point scoring, and some of the point scoring is on having a valid water use license. And if you had a confirmation that you have applied, then you'd get those points while you're still waiting for the department to issue the license. So the department confirmed that they've received all the 15 wastewater treatment plants licenses, and as a result, we continued with the green drop assessments using the Department of Water and Sanitation communication. We have that letter that was issued. But again, up to 2016, there was no response from the department. We went back to the department to say we still have not received the licenses. And of course, this is negatively impacting on the municipality. And the department at the time, the Provincial Department of Water and Sanitation, made us aware at the time that there's a new regulation that will be promulgated. And this new regulation now will have guidelines on the processes and so on. And this regulation was eventually promulgated in 2017. So after 2017, we looked at the regulation, and the regulation, it's prescriptive of what you must now do in terms of the water use license applications for existing wastewater treatment plants. And one of the requirements that I think are relevant now here is that exactly what the MMC has said. Firstly, you must confirm that there's no impact on operations on the groundwater. And you must also conduct public participations for the communities around the treatment plants. And lastly, you must now develop a technical report that looks at the whole processes, the treatment processes, stormwater management, sludge management, and the systems within the treatment plant. So the issue of the groundwater contamination meant you must have groundwater monitoring poles, and that's what is now required for all wastewater treatment plants. So at the time we were upgrading 2-3 wastewater treatment plants with the process separate because we're upgrading, so those got the licenses. But the 12 wastewater treatment plants had no licenses. So to cut the long story short, we had to start with the drilling of the boreholes. When you drill boreholes, you must first do investigations on the groundwater flow under the treatment plant, because you must drill boreholes on the direction of groundwater flow. So you first have to appoint the geotechnical experts. And then eventually we drilled 48 boreholes. That was, as MMC said, just as we're preparing to drill the boreholes, we had the COVID starting, and then after COVID, we appointed again the consultants to monitor the process. From 2012, we drilled 14 boreholes, and from there, then we monitored the groundwater. We had the reports on the impact or no impact, and following that, then we started with the process of firstly consulting the Department of Water and Sanitation to say, we are now ready to submit applications, and there's a pre-consultation process you must do, which we did. When we met with the department, they explained to us that given some of the conditions of the treatment plants due to the impact of vandalism, before we can submit an application, they require another step in between of us preparing action plans to bring the treatment plants to a functional condition. And then we appointed, again, the engineers now to do separate assessments of each and every of these 12 plants to come up with these action plans, because we informed the licenses will not be issued without what they termed budget-backed action plans. So we spent another year conducting the action plans for the treatment plants, which were completed in 2024. Now we are in a process of conducting the public participation. We have registered all the interested and affected parties for each of these 12 plants. We have now started with the public participation processes. We've started, because there's 12 of them, we've started with a group of 4. We've consulted in December with the councillors of the areas where these 4 wastewater treatment plants are. We've registered all interested and affected parties, and we're now preparing to conduct public participations. And the public participations themselves are prescriptive. You must do them over a 60-day period, take into account all the comments and factor them in application. So this is where we are now in terms of these 12 wastewater treatment plants that have expired license. To summarize it, the process was delayed. with the applications that were made until 2017 with the promulgation of the new act, which has these new requirements of boreholes now that we had to install or drill into the treatment plants, monitor groundwater. The monitoring itself took about 2 years because they had to monitor the ground
So,
water.
so Mr. Nongongo,
Yeah.
you're giving us a thesis.
This
I
speaks to
think, let me stop there, Chair. I think,
Yeah, I am worried we'll finish at midnight.
this speaks to the lackluster attitude of the municipality, because you can't tell me that they can't do this thing within 10 years. Because from 2016, it's 2026 now. 10 years. We can't finish one thing. There's no way, Chair.
Okay. Thanks, Honorable Gubek. Can we proceed with that? Can I ask, can we just make a choice? So I get very nervous. I'm not going to allow people to now add, because that's what gets us here. I don't mind sleeping at 2 a.m. I don't know about you. I don't think we should look to do that. So can we answer questions as concisely as possible, please?
Thank you, Chair, Chairperson, Honorable Chair. Sorry.
We've been called all sorts of things, believe me.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, I will just respond to the question that was posed by Honorable Direko on the irregular expenditure, or UIFWE, the highest departments that have incurred unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. I'm going to be dealing with the irregular expenditure. The highest departments are found in the Directorate of Infrastructure as well as Spatial Development and Planning. Fortunately, these are the contracts that we have investigated as MPEC. At the time, I was chairing MPEC, and then reported according to this current financial year, which is 2024-25. So you have Water Sanitation Department, a Directorate of Infrastructure sitting at 300.5 million, as well as electrical overhead and maintenance of electricity sitting at 421 million, and as well as in the same electrical department, you are sitting at 221.6 million. Travel management and services, it's 155 million. Consulting engineers, you are sitting at 170.5 million, and rehabilitation and maintenance of bridges and culverts are sitting at 1.1 billion. Those are the highest, departments that have incurred irregular expenditure in this current financial year. But I can safely say these are the transactions and contracts that were investigated and reported to before Council, and they were resolved accordingly. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. If I may ask the CFO on the systems in place to check the quality of the AFS and who does them, but also legal for the quantum of our legal bill.
Good afternoon again, Honorable. Good evening. Yes, in terms of the AFS monitoring process, what we normally do.
No. The MM's mic is on.
Sorry. I think the question is around as to, in terms of the AFS, Honorable, I think Dereko, in terms of what we do, we performed the AFS internally, but for employee benefits, like, and also your, what you call, we use, because those are specialized actuaries, we normally use consultants for those because those calculations are quite critical. Then in June, we prepare internally the AFS. Then we subject them to internal audit after we've compiled in the month of August. And then now that process, it goes to a audit committee. So the audit committee of the municipality, after internal audit have reviewed our AFS, then the audit committee also perform its review exercise. Then we incorporate those comments from the audit committee, and then we finalize our AFS submission. We normally send them before even we finalize. We also send them to the treasury for comments. The AFS, once we finalize them, then after that we subject them. After the audit committee has finalized everything, then we sign them off on the 31st of August. Then in terms of the plan for this year, because the question that was very critical is what are we going to be doing this year in terms of also addressing the findings that have been raised. We have targeted the 15th of April using quarter 3, that is the 31st of March. We'll be preparing the interims. We've prepared them in December. Then at 31st of March, what we'll do, we use that report at the 31st of March. We'll subject them to internal audit for review, specifically for the assets. We've already identified that, and also the risky areas in terms of the audit report that has been tabled of the 2024. Then the outcomes of that internal audit review, which will take normally about plus minus 15 days, then that will give us the month of April, May, to make sure that we incorporate that as we prepare for year end. Because what normally kills Buffalo City is that they normally at year end process a lot of journals. So that exercise now, the last quarter, it must be a maintenance phase. That's what is going to be changing this year based on the internal audit review. So we're not going to wait for the 30th of June in terms of the preparation of the actual AFS in preparing for the audit. So that's what the city will be doing. In terms of the salary bill for the executives, it's 1% of the salary bill for the executive, which is per annum, which is around 24 million. So I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you. So with regard to the percentage of Section 57 with city manager over the salary bill, it's 0.85%, below 1%. I must also say that we're quite low in our salary bill. In total, across all metros and municipalities, we maintain 24 to 25%. Then with regard to the legal fees, our legal fees for the mid-year financials, that our draft is about 20 million, as compared to last year, about 48 million. Then I know you all asked about the evergreen contracts. So we have been terminating evergreen contracts, obviously engaging through legal and the service providers. We've been terminating with the consent of those service providers. I'm making them understand why we should be terminating them. And then we went out with regard to advertising new tenders. Obviously, there was a gap period, then we had to utilize one of the legislations for the continuation of the operations. I think my colleague covered the AFS. Then what are we doing in terms of also mitigating factors, and we don't find a repeat? We have internal audit, we have an internal risk department. We also prepare an audit action plan where directors are responsible, and we have weekly meetings, which all started in January, immediately after the audit report and management letter is out, is dissected. And that's loaded on the National Treasury portal, and Provincial Treasury partakes in that. We also monitor that, and in terms of root causes, So directors and HODs have to monitor that and look at their policies and internal control, strengthen the internal control environment. What we have done lately is that create within the Office of the COO, create a governance unit. And within that governance unit, we also have a supply chain specialist that will look at externally into the supply chain processes. In terms of where we're going in 26-27, obviously we want to strengthen our governance control, our financial management as well. I think most important with National Treasury rolling out the legislation of the AMSCOA, we'll have to digitalize and integrate all our systems. So we're going to have to force that. And one of the areas we're currently looking at the integration of the e-procurement system in supply chain into the financial system. I think that will also strengthen our control environment. The issues around assets, we've been working tirelessly. I think 31st March, when we give the draft financials, we would have sat with the AG, and my colleague did mention the meetings with the AG, obviously to the entries that we're going to put through and the areas that of remedying will be discussed with the AG, so we get their buy-in. I think that's important for us and that of National Treasury and Provincial Treasury. We're working with all three spheres, the National Treasury, Provincial Treasury, and the AG as well simultaneously. And that we're hoping then to achieve. I just want to reiterate that in terms of what the Mayor said, the qualifications, yes, we had 4 qualifications. We're down to 1 on assets. There's just 2 repeats. The others are new, coming out of the audit. And I think we will get around that this year. In terms of the work we're doing tirelessly with regard to assets. In terms of procurement, we're strengthening the e-procurement system to a stage where we want to go now. In the next stage of the tender process is for the formal tenders to be on the system itself. Currently, we have the under 30,000 and up to 750 on the procurement system. We have a centralized contract register as well. And then the oversight in terms of what we have through the city manager's office and the COO, look at the governance within the committees as well. We have 3 bid education committees and 2 specification committees. I think the area where we need to strengthen most is the performance of the link to the budget and the expenditure and the reporting on the performance. I think there is some weakness. That area, obviously, it's automated and we want to strengthen it. Together with the POEs, I think that is important, that how we manage our documents. I think I think most of the other thing was covered by my colleague. Material irregularities, obviously, we're looking at a task team to look at material irregularities through strengthening the processes within the organization. Monthly progress reporting to the audit committee. Our audit committee plays a very active role, the chairperson as well as the committee members, and we get full cooperation, or they get full cooperation from both vice versa. I did cover the infrastructure governance unit. I think the area of infrastructure, we have, with the reform that have come through now, I think it will strengthen those areas. Obviously, performance-based and it's contract-based, and obviously the carrot, the dangling at the end of the tunnel there is the performance bonus, which you'd lose if you don't cover it. I think I'm just going to stop there. If there's any questions, then I'll be able to answer. Thank you.
Honorable Dolo and Honorable Teles made inputs, and I think they deserve an answer, and I'll ask you, Executive Mayor, to address them. You remember? Honorable Dolo over there and Honorable Teles. Can you recall what the inputs were?
No, Chair, I'm worried about, what dealing experts in terms of not responding to questions.
I remember the question, Chair. Person, as you would know, that I'm an executive mayor. If there's a pothole, the community would call me on any service delivery related matters. As I have alluded in the beginning of the meeting, how Kaba Promotion got hold of me. I received a call from the Chief Whip requesting that I'm not responding to his calls, and that is how I was able to speak to Kaba Promotion. Thank you. On consequence management, Chair, on these cases that I hear, it's a commitment that as council that this disciplinary process must be ongoing, but there are management in senior position that have been suspended. 2 GMs that I know of on record. So consequences, it's happening. It gets presented to council on I think on a quarterly basis or every second month. Those reports do go to council. Of any activities, we can refer, we can give you that report. I think even in the last council meeting, that report was presented, Chair. Thank you. So we do implement it. The audit action plan, the audit action plan, each and every mayoral committee has a responsibility in their committees to deal with the audit action plan. It is an item which I have instructed them as the chairperson of these committees that that item is supposed to be there. There's a technical team which is led by the city manager and myself as the executive mayor, where I call the management and their MMCs to come and give us responses in terms of their audit action plan, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. There was a question that was raised, and I think you also raised with respect to consequence management as a result of the litigation on the Kaba matter. Subsequent to the matter being heard, and on my return in January, I wrote to the acting head of legal services to give me reasons why the matter was not defended. And the letter was also directed to the HOD sports because there was the allegation of the agreement having been reached, requesting that they indicate to me as to on what basis that agreement was reached, for which the municipality was expected to make payments. I received the responses from the head legal services on the 30th of January on all the issues that I have raised. I have unfortunately not received the responses from the HOD Sports, which is a matter I would still have to follow up. That also include assessing the responses of the head of legal services on the adequacy of his response to determine what action I will have to take. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Honorable Telezi also had also asked questions.
He asked, Honorable Telezi asked about the legal bill of the municipality, so we'll give over to City Manager.
No, that was answered. He then asked, do you believe that you are the right jockeys for the horse? I remember he asked that question early on.
Chair, I don't think I want to respond to that. I'm not sure.
You could say yes, Mayor. You could say yes, Honorable Mayor.
I think those that have elected us to be in the position, they agree that we are the right people, and we believe with the strides that we're making in the municipalities, with the changes that are there in the municipality, that we are the right people. I want to rephrase the words that President Mandela used to say, that we dare not fail and we shall not fail. Thanks, Chair.
All right.
Chair, Thank you, Chairman. I think there's always two ways of answering a question. Diplomatic one, and then also answering the question has been asked, but it's okay if you're not answering. But all I can request is really for you to deeply reflect, if you don't answer now, where you really, with all that's going on, it's just so many moving pieces. And also it links to the other one I asked Madam Mayor and gentlemen of saying, what is the split between your time left for service delivery and all this we are doing now? I dare say it could be anything up to 70%, all the other stuff, if even that, and maybe 30 or 20% service delivery. But on this one of the Jockey, I really would like you to go and reflect very deeply if you choose not to answer it, Mayor.
Okay, I think the Honorable Telez's question is pretty straightforward. With everything else that you're dealing with, do you believe you've got enough time for service delivery to do the core work of the municipality? We don't get to like every question we get asked.
No, thank you very much, Chair, on that one. I think it's a good question, Honorable Buthelezi. From where we're sitting, there is a plan in place so as to turn around the Titanic. If you had noted earlier on, I think part of the questions that were asked were based on the recovery plan, the financial recovery plan of the city. And as the city were committed to delivering the service delivery to our people. Ngoso.
Sorry.
Through you, Chair. Just be careful that you are not reshuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. Thanks.
Sorry, Chair. I just want to be specific. Honorable Mayor and Honorable Councillors, do you think you have capacity and political will to make your senior management, specifically your MM, accountable? If you have that capacity, can you display to us? Can you convince us as Parliament that you have that capacity, that you have also tried? And MM, do you have capacity and will to actually make your management accountable to you? Can you display to us as this Parliament? Because I'm not convinced with your answers. I'm not convinced with your answers, Honorable Mayor. I'm not convinced. Display to us as this Parliament that actually we have the capacity and political will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there was more a comment or any sort of you are imploring them to show rather than to answer. Thank you very much. Honorable Member, so what we'll do is we'll give all the members an opportunity to ask questions, then we'll just do follow-ups. Or you forgot, Honorable Member, that you must still have your 10 minutes. Or you don't want it anymore. Okay, all right. So we'll just do the members one after the other. All right, thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Last year we were in BCM. That was March. I remember very well we had a to and from, to a point where the chief whip, the speaker, and everyone was called to be asked. And the MPEG chair was now MMC. To be asked if isn't there a possibility of the council constituting a special council for that report. We asked that question and we were promised that it will happen, MMC of Finance. And that's where the mayor made a commitment that she will make sure that her and the speaker, they will table that report. That was March. But now, today, there is a gap which is not explained as to what happened between March and October. Because the very first time now the council is dealing with this report is in October. Yes, there is an explanation that there were further clarities sought by council members from SIU, and that is not put into terms of the time frames. And that's very problematic. Why? The moment accountability is taken as a by the way, the sentiments that my colleague has then become a gospel truth. Now, where I'm going with this, that gap must still be explained as to why was this not done immediately when we left? Why was it not dealt with? And again, over and above that, the SIU, when it spoke with us 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were informed by the SIU that they still don't have a report. And we were engaging them on this report. They only told us that almost 2 or 3 weeks ago, the municipality informed them of this new so-called process of permission. And then there's dishonesty now. I said in the beginning, your statements then and your statements today are changing face, changing color, changing direction. And if we're not honest, we're going to have a problem, because we're going to write a report and recommendations that will be a report of Parliament on your heads and your names. Who was dishonest with this report and not give SIU the proper direction as to how to obtain the report? Another matter that speaks to also this laissez-faire attitude and disrespect of the rule of law is demonstrated by the material irregularity that was issued to the municipality May 2023 by the Auditor General pertaining to the Nahoon River pollution. And that material irregularity set on your books that it was communicated 2023, 2024 there was no change. Then 2025, there was still no change. There, between the time the AG came and today, then there is a change of obtaining a piece of land for the people of, Enompumelelo. And here is a problem with that. Mayor, there's section 24 of the Constitution that at least even if you do not respect us with what and the interventions we say and what we are asking you to do, at least respect the Constitution, because they have a right to a clean environment. Where they stay today, it's toxic. And the toxins that come to the water are simply because of the environment they are in. And they have a government. And I liked the way you quoted Nelson Mandela earlier on. But Raul Nelson Mandela also simply said, if the government of today that you chose is doing that which the apartheid did to you, you must do exactly what you did to the apartheid to this government. Because it makes no sense that there is such a serious material irregularity which does not only carry a financial problem,
or a financial irregularity, but it carries the lives of the people that are on the line. That was not adhered to, that was not done. It's still not done. Because I'm not accepting the explanation that there is a piece of land that has been found, there is another one that we're looking for, but there's still even no plan as to what then after getting that piece of land. You'll acquire the piece of land, good shot, but it doesn't address the material irregularity and the lives of the people of Nombomele and the toxins thereof that are flowing into the Naun River with the water that must be consumed by the people. And the level of the testing with the Auditor General told us that the feces is found in that water. People must drink it. That's the level of consciousness that must come with us when these kind of material irregularities come to us. You strip it to that level, the human impact, financial impact, governance impact, but the irregularities there don't only carry the so-called irregularities, there's people's lives. No, we don't care. Then there's a constitution that compels us in section 24 that these people must be taken care of by the government. No, we don't care. Now I'm going to go to the next one. This one is a financial problem. The board of the agency. We wrote off 49 million of the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which was reflecting in the books, in the annual report a year before, and now it's not reflecting for this year. Yes, I remember the CEO saying there were consequences, but they are not enough if we do not see the names and the actions and the recovery thereof. Because 49 million cannot just be attached to one official and then that's it. There's no recovery, there's nothing we say about the service provider, because the moment it's categorized under fruitless and wasteful expenditure, it's something else. There's no justification of that. So I think also the CFO at the agency, CEO, will be very much helpful, because where he comes from is exactly the first wife of this committee, which tells us these things. So once it's fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we must be told how much was recovered from that, and then how many officials were dealt with and are out of the system and whatever else. Now here where I want to come to, Chair, especially in relation to the water world, as well as, what is this place? The Court Crescent Park. We have an MOU with the SIU, and when we were there, the CEO told us they voluntarily wrote to the SIU requesting the SIU to investigate the matters there and would like those matters to go forward. Because whatever else is happening there, I'm not convinced that there is full-blown disciplinary actions and consequences that are taking place. There's something deeper than what meets the eyes. Face value, whatever we hear here, we're going to hear more, which also, and in many cases, implicates the principals. And that has to happen. The SIU, Chair, through the committee, I think we do have the power to also convince the president that he must write a proclamation, must sign a proclamation for the water world. It could include the other elements, the stoop and the Crescent Park on the BCM. We can't leave BCM like this. Mdantsane swimming pool, I think my colleague asked here, how much was recovered, because we are starting from scratch now in Tanzania. But as stating ngoba sesifune mali niphi. And the worst part there again, there were contractors, subcontractors that came on that day, claiming that whoever was a contractor had never paid them. And they had workers. Those are people. Those are people's lives. They had workers. Those workers were there. The chair was addressing them, gave them an opportunity to speak. They showed us contracts. They showed us the workers that were never paid a cent. And those people we directed, there is a head of the department which committed to listen to them. I can't remember which one was it. And I don't know how far is that matter now. So there ought to be a recovery in Tanzania, and there ought to be someone addressing those subcontractors that were not paid by the main contractor of the municipality. Now, I want to get to deviations. There's something interesting about the deviations. And there are 2024 deviations. They are categorized into three. There's deviations, emergency. There's deviations called exceptional, and then there's deviation called sole service provider. Sole service provider in South Africa is very rare. And there is just a couple which I've lifted out. There is a 32 million for strip and fix for 36 months, which was deviated. I'm interested to know under which circumstances did the Treasury allow this? Because strip and fix and maintenance of vehicles and everything for 36 million for 36 months, if we were to be procuring new vehicles, we would get more than if we are buying approximately at 700,000 buggies and even less. We're going to get 4,500 cars, brand new. But fixing is going to cost us 32 million for 3 years. Interesting thing is that we would like to know what kind of maintenance is this that's being done here on this deviation. What kind of maintenance that cost us for 32 million only in 3 years? The next one is 187 million. This is the rehabilitation of bridges. Can we get the bridges? Where were they constructed? On which areas? By who? Who are the contractors? Then there is one for 30 million for pit latrines in the rural areas. Which rural areas were beneficiaries of these pit latrines? How many were they? At how much each pit latrine? We were once told about Guyana here, Kanti, one borehole was 5 million. How many pit latrines? How much was a pit latrine? In which villages of East London? Then there is one for 142 million for the water infrastructure. This one is very interesting. We're told it's a sole. I don't know how the Treasury agreed, but there is no sole service provider that maintains water infrastructure in South Africa. There's so many people. Which water infrastructure are we talking about for 142, and what was it that was being done for this 142 million? 183 million is a panel for 10 months to do services in the municipality. What are these services on this 183 million? And this is for 10 months. Who are these contractors? What were they doing? And how much did each of them receive? 42 million for water works again. So there's water infrastructure at 142 million. Then there's another 42 million as a sole service provider for water works, which then becomes 184 million just for water under sole service provider. Who are these people? What were they doing? I'll pause the chair. Thank you.
I was going to say. Thanks very much. Can we respond to Honorable Mente's questions?
Thank you, Chair. I will start
And I think they're pretty specific.
Yes, Chair, I will start first. The Chairperson first, I think I fully agree with what Honorable Mente is saying in terms of the Nawun spillage. I think this is one issue that is giving me a headache, the Nawun spillage. In our conversation with the Minister of Water and Sanitation, this is one aspect that I have raised to her, requesting that the department to assist us in terms of capacity, because this is a new department that has just been established. So part of the plans, because Buffalo City, in terms of doing a study and everything, which Mr. Nongogo will go into technical issues, the city does have a plan. But also, Honorable Chairperson, one thing that you need to understand that Buffalo City have serious financial constraints on certain matters. But fortunate enough, through the business reform, we have received funding in terms of water and sanitation. So there is a plan that a technical team that between Buffalo City and the Minister of Water and Sanitation is dealing with, to deal with all these issues that we're talking about in the waste treatment plants in Buffalo City. So that plan, Chair, once it's completed, we will appraise the portfolio committee on that. On the issue of Nompumelelo, Chairperson, the reality of the matter is, if you talk about better life for all, in the Metropolitan Municipality, when you move people from this place to another place, you need to have a township establishment, that you don't take people in the worst condition and you put them in a worse condition. So that township establishment is completed. It's going to go for council for noting. The township establishment talks about roads, water, infrastructure, sanitation, and everything. This land that we bought there would not take everyone, but it's an overflow for both Nompumelelo, and hence we wanted to buy the farm next to this land, which the owner of the land wanted us to exchange, and the municipality then had difficulties in terms of the value of the property. So I want to state it here, Honorable Mende, there's no way that we cannot care for the people. We do care. And the progress that we've made thus far, it's to make sure that that township establishment will be noted in council. Once that is noted in council, then infrastructure must be put there, because awukwazi ususa abantu kwindawo econdition ebed bengena basic services. Uphinde uthi, I'm just going to look for land and just put people there. So we're looking into that matter. Chair, I want to say, in terms of everything, as the executive mayor of Buffalo City, in terms of this report being presented to council, all these reports were presented on the time frames that you requested that this report, and I want to believe that my office did submit that to your office on all this day. There was never a time when we did not submit or we did not go to council. It's one thing that I had to put my head on the block as the executive mayor of that Buffalo City in terms of accountability for all this report to be presented to council. So I will give Mr. Nongongo to respond more on some of the issues that Honorable Mente has spoken to, and the issue of deviations, which Honorable Mente has spoken to. Let me give Councillor Gyari first.
Just to give the committee comfort, Chair, and yourselves, on the 30th of April, a special meeting set 2025, and these minutes will be submitted to the committee. On the 22nd of August, again, the report themselves were deliberated, and of course I'll take into account, Chair, that all the intricacies of the discussions on the reports that were pertaining to be submitted were submitted. If you remember, Chair, it was the SIU report, it was the Ernst & Young report, equally it was the impact reports that were submitted on all this council. So Chair, I'm saying to just give comfort to Honorable Mende, these submissions will be made, which are inclusive of the deliberations thereafter of the financial discipline report. Then Mr. Nongongo.
Good evening. Again, all protocol observed. I will try and be straight to the points. The first response is on the Naun outfall sewer. Maybe just to add to one of the, I think the executive mayor dealt with the Nompumelelo issue, which was what was raised in the material irregularity in terms of the informal settlements on sewer lines. But also that MI or that material irregularity also included the bulk pipeline going along the Naun River, which had frequent sewage spillages as well. To cut the long story short, in 2022, we appointed a firm of consulting engineers to assess that line, and that line was found to be at capacity. As a result, when it rains, it overflows. And secondly, there was a silt trap. You know, we build along the sewer lines silt traps to control the silt and sand that accumulates on the pipeline. So it also had frequent spillages. So the engineers did an assessment, various assessments they did, hydraulic assessment, investigations, but at the end, the sewer line has to be upgraded, and currently we're busy with the detailed design of the sewer line upgrade. It's if I recall correctly, it's a 7-kilometer line, which is built along a very tricky terrain. It's along the river and there's cliffs and so on. So it is quite an expensive operation. The estimates at this stage are that it will cost us about 300 million to build that sewer line. So we're busy with the detailed design at this stage. And of course, with the silt trap, we've built an interim pipeline parallel to the existing line from the silt trap right down to a pump station. So there is work being done. It's just that it's time consuming. The construction period is estimated at 2.5 years. So even when we complete the design, it's still going to take about 2.5 years or so to really build that line, depending on also budget availability. The other question I would like to respond to is the issues of deviations. I think there were 3 deviations related to water and sanitation. The first one is we have a deviation, I think it said it's about 42 million. In water and wastewater treatment, we have various equipment that we purchase. Pumps, flow monitoring equipment, screens for the treatment plants, transmission gears, in wastewater treatment plants and also in water treatment plants. These equipments come from specific companies. And these companies have agents. They would have an agent for this particular pump that we purchase. It's the only agent in East London or in the Eastern Cape. And you can only buy that equipment from that agent anywhere. No one can purchase other than from that agent. So they become the sole service provider for the agent. And most of this equipment is not manufactured in South Africa. So the agents have, the manufacturers have a specific agent that supplies that equipment, that installs that equipment, because if it's installed by any other person, you don't get a warranty. So in other words, then for those equipment that we use that are solely supplied by those companies and those agents, we are only forced to have contracts with them. Otherwise, we risk contracting with another person, putting a cap on top of that supply cost, and of course, when you install, the warranty is not, active. So that's one contract that we have. That was the 42 million, and so it's a 3-year deviation contract. So for every equipment that fails on these specific service providers, we contract them to go and repair. So it's a contract we have for 3 years. So they are sole service providers in that sense. The other 2 relate one to a contract for the maintenance of the water and wastewater infrastructure within the municipality. We had a contract of 15 maintenance contractors so that we call on them whenever there's a repairs to be conducted that we cannot do as a municipality, and these repairs are done over a 3-year period. So when there's a work to be repaired, we give an order to a particular, we make a request to supply chain, they give an order to appoint whatever contract on the 15. So that contract over 3 years has costed that 142. Now, the contract expired while we're still busy with the procurement of a new contract. So a request was made to make a deviation during this period of appointing a new panel of service providers, which at this stage is at bid evaluation stage. So that is how that deviation was made. And then, of course, similarly, the last one, we had a 3-year contract as well for provision of pit latrine in rural areas, and that contract as well expired, and we are also in the procurement stage, at bid evaluation stage, and the deviation was made to continue providing these pit latrines during this period of procurement of a new contract. So those are the 3 deviations, Chair, I thought I must respond to. Thank you.
Chair, thank you very much. The last one is, I fully, as the executive mayor of Buffalo City, I want to state it in this committee that I fully support what Honorable Mende was saying in terms of the president doing a proclamation on the Walter Court Crescent Mdantsane swimming pool. We have nothing to hide, but I think it's high time that the truth come out if that proclamation will assist us, because these projects are trying, have been tarnishing the name of the institution. So I fully support that recommendation. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. So, all right, Manda, you're on 27 minutes, but I'll allow you one more question. Are you? The question is not answered. Okay, which one is that?
The strip and fix for 32 million deviation and the 180.
Thank you, Chair. I'll give Mr. Nonkongo to respond, and then City Manager and CFO. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think to the honourable member, the details of the awards, I'll get a report soon, but this is a contract that we did for a 3-year period, so it's not a once-off period, but this is for all the villages that we provide pit latrines in Buffalo City. If I recall correctly, each pit latrine right now it's around, I think 80,000 or so, somewhere around there. But I'll get the figures correctly. So these are the pit latrines that we provide each year to the rural areas. We have a lot of growing villages within the rural areas that we're catching up on provision of pit latrines. But I'll confirm the facts right now if you could give me 5 minutes or so, in terms of the value and the villages. Yeah. I think that's all I do.
I'll give that to City Manager and CFO.
You all look puzzled. Do you need more detail on it?
Yes, I will, through your honourable chair, I will probably request details on these deviations.
The strip and fix.
So that I can follow up with supply chain, because the process now that we've undertaken, I've also written to the supply chain unit to give me the list of all deviation. I've issued that communication to supply chain to give me the list of all deviations in the city, the list of all regular contracts. So I've given him the deadline of Friday to give me all that information so that I can see which contracts have expired, which deviations have expired, so that we ensure that we make a plan with the relevant affected departments in terms of all this deviation. But with regards to the specific deviation, because I have not received that list as an acting CFO, So I've written to supply chain to give me all that information relating to the deviations, relating to the expired contracts of the institution, so that I can see how then do I assist the institution in ensuring that we regularize all the deviations. But specifically to the ones that the straight and fix and tires, I don't have the details, so I'll probably it's going to come to that, to that register that I've written to the General Manager Supply Chain to say he must give me all that information. Then I'll be able to put up a plan. If they have expired, because I need to know whether those deviations have expired or those are valid deviations, and what were the reasons between those deviations, whether they were emergency, whether they do tick all those. But I believe that the deviation have gone through the process of being, because the question was that were they supported by Treasury? Normally, in terms of the organization, the current scenario, the deviations go through supply chain, CFO, they go through legal, they get approved by the accounting officer, that they go to council for noted. But we'll look at all of that. So hence, but I've required for the completeness of all deviation, not the specific one that the honorable member has made reference to. Thank you.
But what's puzzling is that, as you're seated there, does it make sense for you to allocate 32 million to maintain cars for the 3 years? 32 million just for car maintenance?
Hence, I'm saying, honorable member, for me, I'm doing my assessment. And that assessment will also include what you've just raised now.
So can I make a request? So that's the 32 million could be too much or appropriate, depending on a number of factors, type of vehicle, age, number, etc. So can you just finish the committee with just the details that would help us make sense of the number? So 32 million over 3 years is what? Is 10 million, 10 million some odd, 10.3 million. Okay, so can we just get that detail? So the size of the fleet and etc., so that we can then make sense of whether the number makes sense or not. That would be helpful. All right. Okay, all right, we dealt with all the questions, right? Okay, thank you very much. Honorable, you have nearly said Honorable Taibosh because it's long in the day, and I'm talking about Honorable Direko, actually. You get your... No, I won't forget. No. Sorry, there? No, we dealt with it earlier. Nothing yet. Honorable Direko, are you good? Okay. Honorable Fagu.
I'm being intimidated, Ushenge. Chair, I have few questions. There is an assertion that is made in the report in reference to the council prioritizing strategic and policy-driven issues. Can they expatiate on that? Then the issue of the CFO that is about to be resolved. My question is, when was this CFO employed? I'm looking at the number of years that there's been this to and fro in relation to the CFO from 2022. Then, is it possible for yourselves to have a cost-benefit analysis that is going to be able to tell you whenever you agree and have an agreement with the CFO, what amount of money that you have lost for whatever reason, if there is any, looking at the issue that affects dating it back to 2022. Then on water provisioning, are you able to quantify the number of households? Because I know this affects the rural areas, wherein you are able to provide the RDP standards, that 200 meters radius. And then on the economic side, my interest, for instance, if you look into the industrial strategy, whichever one, because there is a number in the Eastern Cape when you look into the economy, particularly around BCM. The challenges to whoever you speak to is going to be the issue of the logistics. Eastern Cape is located far away from other areas. Secondly, it's going to be the port authority. From where you are seated as BCM, what attempts have you made? Because if I argue about those weaknesses or those threats in relation to the economic of that area, those are very old. In the past 20 years, whether you talk provincial industrial development strategies, the PIDs, and any other document that has been commissioned by the Eastern Cape government, what is it that you think concretely? Because the fact of the matter is that the economy of the area is dependent on the auto sector. We have articulated for a very long time the issue of saying, why don't we try to look into a situation where we're not going to be dependent? Now, there is Trump now, and to what extent has all these mad tariffs have affected the economy? If you look at the economy that is dependent on the auto sector, let me leave it and can you slowly explain? This is the last point, Chair. The argument that was made before when we thought there is an impasse between the municipality and the Auditor General in relation to the model. Let me not get into the technicalities of the model. When you were looking at the asset register, and then the explanation we were given then, it was today, was that no, there is no impasse. It's just a question of a clarification. Now, can you come again and be able to assure us that what we assume, some of us, that is an impasse, is no impasse, but it's a situation where when you are drawing your own audit action plan, you are just trying to get clarifications. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let us thank Honorable Ndamase for the questions. I think first let me talk about the economy of the city. Of course, as Buffalo City, we believe that we are the second economic hub of the province after Nelson Mandela. One of the things that we've been focusing on when I took over as the executive mayor is the expansion of the East London port. I hope you have seen how Transnet has invested into the East London port, the Macbeths, so that bigger ships can come into the East London port. So that is one in terms of logistics. The second one, we have the East London airport, but the second one, which the provincial government is in talk with national government, is the Bulembu airport for logistics. It's their infrastructure in King Williamstown, which we believe it will create a lot of job opportunities for the city. Yes, one of the key things that we're focusing into as the city is agriculture, because we've seen in Africa, like Ethiopia, which is one of the fastest growing country in terms of producing their own food, and we believe that Buffalo City, we're at the center, that port can be used for agricultural projects, but also we're strong in manufacturing in Buffalo City. So that is one. So hence, when I started with my opening remarks, I was emphasizing on factories that are opening, wool factories, which are at Makosa in the industrial IDZ industrial zone. That zone is one of the best performing zone, which 80% it's own funded, 20% which Buffalo City is a shareholder in that industrial park. So there are many opportunities that we are going. But what we are in tourism, also strong in tourism because we have to diversify ourselves. But also we need to look into tourism because of our beaches and the nature reserves around the city. But also looking at smaller cities around us, having a plan which Premier have directed the MEC to coordinate us. But what we also believe into, Chair, is that we need to start boosting township economy and rural economy. So we're looking at funding model, how to assist our own people to open their spaza shops, because we've done an assessment and we've seen majority of the people that are opening these shops are people outside the country. And Omakulu, not Tamkulu, they use SASA grant in buying from these facilities. So this is part of what we are doing as Buffalo City. In terms of AG, I do not want to say that the relation between Buffalo City and AG is bad. It's not bad. But there are times disagreement in terms of the interpretation of GRAB when it comes to assets. City manager will further elaborate. That is why there was an individual in Buffalo City that AG was not comfortable with, so we had to change that individual and strengthen a technical team to deal with. So the relations are still good. I meet with AG whenever I want questions and on agreements, on certain agreements. Of course, there will be issues which, like the BCMDA has raised in terms of material statements, where BCMDA said that you are giving me a material statement, but I've done A, B, C, and D, and 4, and they are waiting for such responses. So there's no bad relation, but what is important, it's transparency, it's accountability between all parties that are involved. I will then give Councillor Chaga to add if I have missed something. Thank you. Are you fine? CM?
Thank you very much, Honorable Executive Mayor. On the issue of council prioritizing strategic issues, this has been the decision of council to look at or review the rules, including the business that the council will have to consider, and the delegations, effective delegations, that will ensure that committees considers matters before they are considered by council, and in that way offload direct matters to council, which should initially be processed through committees, and also ensuring that some of the responsibilities are administratively delegated if they are operational. This will also ensure that the council is not defocused by size of agendas and issues that they are considering in a specific council meeting. So that's the purpose of the review and prioritization of issues to be considered by council. On the issue of when the CFO was employed, I'm informed that the CFO was employed around 2019. Until he was involved in an accident in 2022. Okay, you can go. If I may have this CEO to deal with the economic issues.
No, thank you very much. Through you, Chair, the matters relating to the contraction of the economy because of the auto sector impacts. I think Honorable Ndamasa is correct, that is the fact, and the burden of tariffs that keeps on making it very worse. The Eastern Cape, I think, as government, through various interventions, has identified key economic anchors or potential economic anchors. One, the oceans economy, and we quite deliberate on it as the province and also as the city and through the agency. The next is the agricultural, as the mayor said, is the agriculture and agro-processing. Identifying the opportunity that currently we can supply food into not only in Africa but also to the world. We using the BCM area as an agro-processing center to anchor that. That opportunity is there. The renewable energy in all its forms, including hydro energy, that's another area that we're looking on as BCM, particularly on the hydrogen sector, based on the economic dividend that it can be able to give. Now, that's how we are looking at taking the setbacks that we're currently experiencing. And that's a posture of the province-wide. It's a province-wide posture in terms of building a resilient economy. And we're in sync with the province on that. And we're driving those sectors through the economic cluster. Thanks.
Are you served?
One comment, Chair, which the city manager has articulated, this prioritization of the strategic issues. I think that's the best to take, because as I was listening to issues relating to consequence management, I mean, you are a CEO and you have to act as a grade 1 clerk. Because if you must wait for the council to take decisions on operational issues, I hope this is going to be able to help you. And if you also look at it from the point of view of the changes that are happening from the public service and administration point of view, the amendment of the PSC to also include the whole issue, the long issue of the one public service, as well as the amendment in the Public Service Commission, wherein now you are not going to stay away from the ambit of the Public Service Commission. So those issues, I think they will be able to come and be in sync to what you are trying to do. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ndamase. Honorable Butelis, do you want another bite? I've got 10 minutes for you. Are you covered? Thank you. Honorable Mtolo. Are you also covered? Okay. Okay. Mzala, you won't get a second bite. Why are you looking at me like that? Yo, Mzala. Mzala. Okay. No, colleagues, before we head to a close, I just have a few questions which have a financial implication. So the first one is, people say there is a prepaid surcharge at BCM. Can you just explain this thing to us slowly? So what is this thing that people are complaining about? Some say 430, others say 500, others say 380. Can you just explain to the committee what this thing is and why it is in place?
Thank you very much, Chair. I will give the CFO, Mr. Peter, acting.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members. Yes, this is your basic electricity charge. In simple terms, what happened is the city undertook a cost of supply study as required by NASA that our tariffs must be cost reflective. So through our energy department and our BTO, that exercise was undertaken. That was in 2024. That report of the cost of supply study for Buffalo City It went to the December Council in 2024. Yes. Went to Council 2023, 2024. I'm just, there was a time that I also was at BCMTA. But to put it simple, Chair, Council approved in that December the cost of supply study in terms of our tariffs being cost reflective. So they introduced the basic electricity charge as part of the cost of supply study. Now, that was approved by all parties in council. That is the cost of supply study as undertaken, been taken through the NESA processes, that is the National Electricity Regulator. Then that tariff was, because it was the first time, that's what caused an outcry. I believe there are cities that are already also implementing, I think it's the city of Joburg, that is the basic electricity charge. Because it also affected those customers that are on prepaid. Some of us as residents, we were affected by that. That process, all parties in council approved that in December, the cost of supply study. But I think then it went to the draft in March, and then it was subsequently, it's the year that it was election, but I remember, because what also shocked was that when that was approved, the cost of supply study, I remember at the time, I think the CFO, I was asked to act for a few days. Then I presented that report with Electricity Department to say we needed then to also go out to communities and explain that, because it was the first time that Buffalo City introduced the bill. That is
sorry, CFO, so because of the lateness of the hour, I just need to understand why the surcharge is necessary instead of embedding because the municipality is a distributor, right? The municipality is a retail distributor of electricity. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why isn't this whatever? So you do your cost of supply study. I get all of that. Do your cost of supply study. It gives you an idea of what your tariff structure needs to be. Okay. Why isn't that embedded in the actual pricing of the electricity? Why is it a surcharge? For prepaid in particular. I'm asking from a position of ignorance. I'm not fighting, so please.
It's more of your availability charge, Chair.
Okay, can you just explain that concept to us? Honestly, I'm not going to feel patronized. So I know sometimes I look passionate. I am ignorant. I need to assure you, I am deliqaba on this thing. So you need to take me through it slowly so that I understand, because people are complaining about it, and part of this process is that people then get educated. I'm totally ignorant. I didn't know about it. I don't know how it came to be. So you're doing the ABCs, ne? So I get, so there's a cost of supply study. It gives you an idea of what your tariff structure needs to be, right? Here's now the layperson's question. What is the equivalent for a postpaid customer, for instance? So for prepaid, there's a surcharge. What do you do with a postpaid? Why is there a surcharge for a prepaid, or is there a similar surcharge for a postpaid customer? So I'm going to ask you stupid questions, so please help me.
I'm going to thank you. Good evening. I'm going to try. So with regard to prepaid, yes, there is a lower charge, basic charge, as compared to postpaid, because obviously you're buying your electricity up front, so we gave them a lower rate than the postpaid. Now, what is that basic charge? The basic charge is basically bringing the electricity to your door. So we provide that distribution network, and obviously we have to recover that, and it's quite expensive. So every household, whether you use the electricity or not, even if you got solar there, we're still bringing that electricity to your door for you to connect to. So that it previously used to be the availability charge. I think they did away with the availability charge. So now they're calling it the basic charge. So we want to encourage, obviously, through Buffalo City, and why a little bit more for the postpaid is to encourage everybody to go to prepaid. So we've gone on the drive which no cost to the consumer, the prepaid devices. We're rolling it out to all consumers in the city. Most of the postpaid is for large business users, large and medium-sized business users. So yes, and I think to recover the cost of those distribution network, they introduced that basic charge.
So is this a national policy or something? I'm just trying to understand. So the only level I've ever interacted with NERSA is as an industrial user. So I now need help at the consumer end, right? My understanding is that the tariff structure has to be cost reflective. ESCOM has to do that, and municipalities have to do that, so that you can cover the cost of, distribution of in your case, you have to cover the cost of distribution. I get that. Where you need to help me is to tell me the difference between yesterday, as in when we didn't have this thing, and today when we have it. What problem are you solving that was there before?
In a simple answer, that the basic charge replaced the availability charge. Simple answer.
Was there something called an availability charge?
Yes. I think some metros still run it. I'm not sure. Etiquette still have availability charge, but I'm stand to correction. So previously it used to be availability charge. Yeah.
How did it work at the level of charging the consumer? Was it embedded in the tariff?
No, it was in the tariff structure, and it appeared on your bill as a availability charge.
On your
utility bill.
On your rates bill or on your prepaid bill?
On your consolidated utility bill. You don't get a bill for prepaid, of which people just buy. But on your utility bill, where you have... so in the case of a prepaid, you'll get it on your consolidated bill, where you got your refuse, water and everything else. So you'll have it as availability charge. Now we got it as a basic charge.
I don't know if I'm... So what I always try and do is, and don't look at my face as a face that's fighting. No. What I always try and do is to take it in, and those who know me, then I play it back to you in simpler language, right? I am now battling to understand what this is. So I live in Swan. Okay, so I live in Swan. After I got this, I went and looked at my municipal bill. So I've got prepaid at home. I have it open in front of me, okay? So on my bill is water, it's dog, you know the usual stuff that is on there, right? Rates, refuse collection, etc., etc. When I buy my prepaid, right, there is a fee that I pay each time I buy prepaid. So there is the kilowatt hours I pay, and then there is VAT. There's a charge, and then there's VAT. I understand it is transparent, but that number is not a flat fee that I pay every month that appears on my municipal bill. It appears on the prepaid thing. I kind of get it in my head that I'm paying for the price of the prepaid service being made available to me. Okay, that's me. What I want to understand is that when it appears on the municipal bill, it feels like an additional charge, in the sense that I must still buy prepaid. And the reason it's important in your context, and the mayor touched on this, the consumers in East London are squeezed. And that might have a lot to do with some of the consequence that also appears elsewhere on your income statement, which is your electricity losses are about 800 and some odd million, nearly $1 billion, right? It might show in the number of months people take to pay an invoice, which in your case I think is about 186 days. It's 6 months. And so on. I don't need to itemize everything, because people are generally squeezed, right? And so, and the last thing is, people understand this thing to be something they were not paying before, that they are now paying for, and they are angry about it, as you know better than me. So I now need to understand why the reaction of the residents appears to be that this thing did not exist before. And the amount of money that you pay for it is to the tune of up to 6,000 Rand a year, including VAT. Because that's what 500 Rand is a month, VAT inclusive. I don't know if I'm making sense. So my experience in Tswane is it appears differently, and I get it, and it's a small number. In your case, it's 500 bucks, including VAT for some residents. Why is that? Why isn't it like Tswane?
Okay, I'm trying to read. One of my colleagues sent me something. He says, yeah, and I'm going to read. The basic charge is a reduce of the flat tariff rate. So initially there was a flat rate, which was 6 Rand 65 per unit, instead of the 3 Rand 32 that we charge with the basic rate. So if you answer your question, if we can embed it into our kilowatt charge, NERSA will reject that. They reject those. They go through and they do a thorough study, and then they determine your kilowatt charge in the very categories of customers, your 2A, your 3A, your 2B, and they determine that for us. We do an application. So my colleague is saying here that if there is a basic charge, the one on the basic charge comes in at a cheaper rate than the flat rate of electricity as shown on the bill. So that is why they introduced it. But maybe I instead of delaying the meeting, maybe I will get electricity and the tariff people to do a write-up, and we'll share it with you all. Maybe better.
Okay. Yeah. I'm struggling, and I know that we're missing each other. Okay, because I'm trying to understand the problem that NERSA are trying to solve. I think I understand what NERSA are trying to solve from their perspective, but they're not solving their problem, which is on the consumer end. Maybe let me ask the question this way. If 4 years ago, a customer, and let us, for the sake of this, just say the tariff remained flat, right? For all things being equal, it stayed the same. If for 500 Rand, do I get the same amount of electricity as I get now? Okay, and for, let's say the tariff didn't, so why is that? Is it because there's now this surcharge, this availability charge?
Not about the availability charge. It's not that. It's the cost of electricity that comes into fed into the city. Remember, NERSA also puts up their rates. And
No.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to cure.
Yeah.
I said, let us pretend NERSA has the rates have not been adjusted.
Yes.
What I want to hear you saying is that you're getting the same value. If NERSA had not increased its tariffs, you're getting the same amount of electricity in the same category for 500 Rand that you got 5 years ago than you do now. It basically before you implemented the thing and after. Because your residents feel that they are paying more for less because of the surcharge. You understand? That's how people feel. You get me?
I get you, what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, so what I need when people ask me now, I need to be able to explain it. And from what you are saying, I still can't explain it. That's my difficulty here. And I think the members are in a similar situation or recommend.
Thank you, Chair. Now, firstly, let me correct. Not all parties agreed to that. The EFF didn't agree to this when it was tabled in council. And then number two, I want to understand, why are we not letting ESCOM to provide the electricity to the citizens of BCM than imposing these amounts that are very high? And then number three, you are making also a wrong assumption in thinking that people are consuming the same. I'll make a clear example. If a surcharge is a flat rate like that, that you pay for this month 400, and then you buy your electricity as you are buying. But you are imposing a same amount to a cleaner of BCM and the same amount to the executive mayor, who earns more, can afford more, as well as the person who earns far less, who struggles to put the bread on the table and make ends meet. There is just no sense on this, and I don't know how it addresses anything, because the consumer rate is not the same. I consume less electricity because I earn less and my needs are less. But I can tell you in the executive mayor's house, they consume more because the needs are more and there's more luxuries that are connected. But she pays the 400 and the cleaner pays the 400. Balance as kakuhle. And this is where the argument of the chair goes. Why ungaifaki? Why don't you embed it to the tariff, so that if I buy 1,000 rand a month, then I know I've paid that which is equivalent to my 1,000 rand. But I can't pay upfront the 400 before I pay for my 1,000 rand. It doesn't make sense. Thanks.
Okay, can I ask this? I don't want us to have a tutorial late in the evening. All I want to be able to do is to explain this thing. People ask about wherever you go. Since we've said we're dealing with local government, people are asking about it. It feels, and I have relatives who also are professionals, they also struggle to get it. So it's not just me being stupid. And I would imagine that residents don't understand this surcharge, which would make me ask questions about public consultation as well. And public education, because it appears that people don't know about it. But can we just, that write-up that you explained, can we get it? So let's park that. So we're gonna get that information and then peruse it. The second thing I wanted to ask is about the indigent register. Was there a councillor who was on the indigent category before? Was there a councillor? I read the Daily Dispatch. Was there a councillor who was classified as an indigent? I'll look up the name just now. Not now, like previously, because I do want to ask what happened in that case. I'll just look for the name. Do you guys recall?
Yes, I do recall. There was a councillor which was in the indigent register. I do recall that. But what I heard from the councillor after receiving this, I asked her what happened. So she told me that first she was because she was married and staying with her husband in her husband's house. So the husband was registered as indigent. But when she became a councillor, she went to the NU6 finance department, where she went there to inform, change me from indigent to this. But every time she would go there and complain, complain that this thing has not been changing. So eventually, I think Mr. Peter would then respond to it, but I must say that there was such an issue, which I think now the finance department has responded to, and she made arrangement to pay the debt. Thank you, Chair. One thing that I also want to register, Chair, when I became deputy mayor, and I was given the responsibility, because I was coming from Parliament in the communication committee. One of the things, when Minister Kumbuzo was still the Minister of Communication, we requested the department to help Buffalo City in developing an indigent register. Because I can tell you, because we needed to classify who's indigent and not indigent, Remember, when we started in 2021, it was just after COVID, and many businesses and many people were saying that we're indigent and so forth. So I'm trying to say to you, Chair, there were strides that were made, and technically a team was given to deal with this issue of indigent. So I'll give to the acting CFO to further come in. Thank you.
Okay, all I want to know, thanks, Executive Mayor, I just want to know, so there's an arrangement for the councillor to, because her income would place her outside of the indigent bracket, am I correct?
Because she went to the office ever since she's been councillor. That's what she told me, to complain that the status has not changed, but now she's councillor. So she then made arrangement to pay her the backwards the debt. Thank you.
Okay, now I think that's so you just confirmed that the person is actually paying back the. Okay, so that's that. I just want to fly through the issues quickly. May I ask, is there a councillor who's receiving free accommodation from council at Gonubi Chalets? A councillor Tempi?
I would not know, Chair.
Okay, so there is no such.
I'm not saying there's not such. No, there's no such. But I think it's we don't know. Maybe we'll look into it. At the chalet in the resort.
Yeah.
Oh no, we'll have to look into it.
Okay, so one of the things that happens, we get whistleblowing. The whistleblowing is detailed. It says when the person started living there. It says the circumstances under which they started living there. By the account of the story, it kind of makes sense why they needed help at the time, given their circumstances. But it's now been years of the person living there. We also have been given the number of the chalet in which that person lives, the midweek rate and the weekend rate. If the chalet was available for use by other people. So let me just ask again. So this councillor, there is no councillor who lives there, or you're going to check, because it falls into the same category of things that shouldn't that shouldn't happen. Nobody knows anything about this.
No, Chair, as we were saying that we will investigate the matter, but it has not come to my attention. But I know this one of the Council of Ward 11 because she called me. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay. Then there is an issue raised by the AG. It's a financial allocation policy issue broadly, but also there appears to be a dispute in terms of the numbers, and that is your infrastructure allocation. There is a national benchmark, I think, which is about, the ideal is 8%. I think, if my recollection of your annual report, it says 3-something%. I also think the AG said 1%. I actually checked this morning before I came here to see if the AG does say 1%. So what's your allocation for infrastructure? Is it 1%? Is it 3-something%? Because both numbers live in the annual report and they are not the same number. So which is it?
I'll give CM to respond to that. Thank you.
So my understanding, Chairperson, due to the norm at national level is about municipalities provide about 8%. Now, in the case of Buffalo City, due to the revaluation of the assets, obviously the asset value has gone up. Our budget is around about 3 to 4%. Look at that. You're quite correct. I also checked it in the financials today. When one of the honourable members raised it, yes, I think the actual number spent is 1% of the revalued assets. You're quite correct. But in terms of the budget provision, it's between 3.5% and 4%.
Okay, so can you help me with the difference between yourselves and the AG?
No, we're not disputing that. We wrote the financials. We prepared the financials.
Okay.
So the actual expenditure for the year 24-25 was 1% on the revalued assets.
Okay.
Actual expenditure.
Okay, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
So here's my difficulty, right, with it. So I've also looked at your water losses. So you've got your water loss, the two categories, and electricity is the same. So there's the theft, and then there's the losses due to infrastructure. Those taken together run into over R500 billion between electricity and water, right? Now, what I need to understand is it not possible to up your infrastructure spend, because you get into a death spiral, and I'm going to ask about one more issue, and then I'll shut up, because you do get into a death spiral with these things. You spend too little on maintenance, your losses, your utility losses mount, which means you have to up your utility rates to residents. But because of the issues that I raised earlier about residents being squeezed, the collection rate continues to drop. The collection time continues to drop, your revenue drops over time. You get the accounting problem I'm pointing to, right? And then eventually you also need financial help from somewhere else. So it would appear to me, but that part of what you need to do is investing more in infrastructure maintenance and infrastructure security. That's what seems, because that could save you hundreds of millions a year in essence. You know, let me just place that on the table. It's something that for our ongoing monitoring. So that's the one thing. The other thing that and I'm going to give my jaundiced view from a distance. So here are the weaknesses that I see systemically at Buffalo Seat, right? The first one is strategic procurement. There are too many instances where, and I'm not saying it's always the case, I'm just saying there are just too many to accept, instances where you have to kind of extend a contract or to do a deviation and so on, because it appears that someone did not know that a contract was going to expire. That's number one. The second, from the sample of the things we've dealt with that I've seen, is contract management. That's the second one. The third one for me is that your panel of project engineers needs help. It needs an overhaul, right? If I look right, I look at Zwelicha water treatment works, you look at the stoop, you look at a whole range of things. And the disputes that are even in arbitration now point to poor contract management. There's project management, there's contract management as a weakness. I think you guys need to know which contracts are expiring within the next year. The necessary processes need to kick in at least 12 months in advance, so that when that contract expires, you also are able to have somebody else in place, or you renew the contract. So those are some of the things that I've noticed from a distance. I just want to ask, so please just note those as things that perhaps on a regular basis between COGTA and ourselves, we're just gonna need to keep checking with one another. I just want to know, to understand just the basics of the sponsorship with Chippa United vis-a-vis the stadium and so on. How does that work at a high level? You don't need to kind of outline the whole contract in, here. I just need to know how does that work? What do you offer them and what do you get?
Chair, I think, let me respond to some of the issues that you have spoken to. I will give the management to then respond to some issues, especially on the cheaper one. Chair, I think on the pointers that you have just alluded to in terms of the procurement, contracts management, poor contract management, water and electricity laws, I think those are our challenges as an institution. You have hit it on the nail. We fully agree with you. And this is where we also have identified. But what is important is that we are implementing the risk adjustment strategy, because departments, there's a culture that we are trying to change gradually, which we I think, and Section 154 in reinforcing this culture, especially when it comes to contracts management. I think if as a city we can manage that part and the procurement part, hence you could see that part of what we have done, we have reshuffled the mayoral committee according to the individual skills of MMCs to play a very critical role when it comes to oversight. On the issue of water loss, this is part of the discussion that we have with the Minister of Water and Sanitation. The major thing that we want to tackle on, especially on what AG has raised in terms of the audit outcome, is the issue of water loss. So we're going to invest some money there in terms of water loss of what we've received from National Treasury, including the electricity supply. Now, what I'm getting from management in Buffalo City, there are 13 pointers where ESCOM gives us electricity. Vincent will correct me. Now, and it cost us almost, how much? 50 million a month. But if you can count those amounts for the entire year, it's a lot of money. So we're thinking of going to council to see if council can approve, if we can get a loan or something so that we can have one supply and we can save 50 million per month. So that is part of the strategies that we're looking into as Buffalo City, but also to deal with the issue of water loss. We have given city manager instruction to write to his HODs that all plans for the financial year, because if you submit your plan, you give finance an opportunity to do procurement processes in time if you submit now for the new financial year. So these are the steps that we're taking, which we need to monitor. And I'm grateful that
All right, I think I forget I'm in the Western Cape right now. Okay, so can we just get the basics of that arrangement?
Through your chair, may I give to legal?
Thank you, City Manager. There are two agreements that the city has with Chippa United Football Club. The first one is a long-term lease, which has been entered into. It's a 20-year lease agreement, which has been entered into in terms of the asset transfer regulations. There was I don't think I need to talk to the process, but that's the first lease.
Let's assume the process was okay. I just need to understand that. So do they get it? Is part of the sponsorship the value of the lease, or do they pay the city money, or how does it work? Then in-kind sponsorship?
No, it's not an in-kind sponsorship. There is a basic monthly rental. I think it's 3,000 rands. And also there is maintenance required, and there is a joint beneficiation between the city as well as the Chippa United when it comes to gate takings, and there is also some collaboration when it comes to safety issues and all that. That is part of the stadium related agreement. Then the second one, the sponsorship agreement. The sponsorship agreement, I think that's 3-year sponsorship agreement. It's just been renewed, I think, a year or so ago. That one was approved by council. Is in terms of funding for matches. I think the charge is 1.2 million per match. That is administered by the Department of Sport within Buffalo City Municipality under HOT Squaza.
Those are two agreements, and I'm not sure about the number of matches which are held per year. At some point, there were 4, and then another year were 5. But
So when you say per match, is it for per every league match or per match that is played at Buffalo City?
every league match, that professional soccer league match.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest something. We can't get into the weeds of this here, and maybe it's not desirable. So in my previous life, I oversaw the ABSA Premiership sponsorship. So I know something or two about football sponsorships. Can we work together with the AG on helping the committee understand this? Because I'll tell you why. And there's a reason why I was asking about it. And thank you for giving the basic detail. So the football sponsorship, I think there's 30, how many league games per year? How much? 30 games, right? So at 1 something million, looking at about 40 million. Well, it's gotta be, it's 1 something per game. You said 1 something per game.
It's only the one that are played in Buffalo City.
No, but that's what I asked. Remember, I asked that because I wanted to get the number right. I said, is it every game played at Buffalo City or is it every PSL game? And the answer was every PSL game. You understand? So that's why I'm asking. Because if you take account of PSL games, you take account of cup games and that kind of thing, you're looking at serious money. You understand? And I must tell you, it would, together with the stadium arrangement, would get to about half of what Betway pays the PSL. You understand? But we don't need to ventilate this matter here. There might be nothing to this. Can I just ask that we work together with colleagues from the AG to help the committee understand? I understand commercial arrangements have sensitivity, so it might not be necessary to ventilate everything here. So can we just get to understand that in the end there might be nothing. All I want, I'm not saying the city shouldn't have a sponsorship. Rwanda appears on Arsenal's jersey. All I want us to be comfortable together is that the sponsorship fee matches the value that the Metro gets. That's all. One. Secondly, we would then need to have a conversation about your other priorities. But don't stress. I'm not fighting it. Okay, I just want to make sure. So you understand that if the interpretation that is for every PSL match, it would get to over 50% of what the PSL sponsorship as a whole is. The league sponsorship. So these things you always need to make sure that you're paying fair value for what you're getting. That's my only interest, right, on behalf of the committee. The last question. We've had a lot of back and forth about the legal advice, and so does the Metro have a panel of attorneys that it uses? Let me say my interest up front. Having had regard for everything that we've spoken about, I am genuinely worried about the quality of the legal advice the Metro is getting. I am. Which is why I'm asking the question. Does the Metro have a panel of attorneys, or does it have a firm of attorneys that it's got on retainer for a period? How does it work?
I'll give City Manager to respond to that, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We've got a panel of attorneys. As and when required services, I think it's around 38 law firms which are in our register, which have been appointed through a supply chain management process. Thank you.
Okay, so how does it work? Is it on a rotating basis, or we've got different types of law firms for different things?
Okay, we've categorized in the legal service, specialized legal services into three: general legal services, conveyancing, as well as labor law services. So we contract as on a rotation basis to ensure that fair opportunities are given to law firms.
Okay, so let me just state my case and then leave it with you. I think that a city manager, your legal department does need a review. And I understand, Mr. Advocate Zenzile, you are not around, right, for some of the time. But we've simply dealt with a number of legal and litigation issues since we started our relationship together that are cause for concern. The contract management, for instance, is not just a procurement issue, it's also a legal issue. The quality of the contracts that you have, are there clawback clauses, and all of these kind of things is something that gives me pause. That's one. Secondly, there's no time to get into this whole thing about the alleged sponsorship, but just the story as it gets told about notices that arrive, they're not defended, you go to lawyers, they say the lawyers know you must pay, and that kind of thing. That points to a lot of problems for me. So you understand, can we then just do that? Because the Metro also can't leak money through a variety of legal loopholes and legal incompetence and that kind of thing. That's going to give problems. So I think I will leave it there. I'm sorry, Honorable Dr. Mkhize, I've kept you so long. I don't think you ever want to sit with us again. Because last night it was the same story. But I will hand over to you. And Honorable Dr. Mkhize will close. The only thing I will say in closing is that we really all want a BCM to be imondi lesiyazi. Right? Imondi lesiyazi. We want people to come from overseas to go and stay there. Yeah. So that's and I can tell you the members want the same thing, all of them. So notwithstanding the toughness of the conversation, ultimately the members want the World Economic Forum to take place in Buffalo City one day. So that's the ultimate goal. So we are together in this in that sense. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Well, let's start. It's been a long day, but I hope when you sit down and look back, you will be able to realize our focus is about making your metro a better municipality than it has been. Whatever you would have tried to do all along, our focus is to try and say, how do we make you stronger and better? There are many things that you have tried to do, but there are many things also that we are concerned about. Primary issue for us is about good governance. It's about fighting corruption. It's about improving service delivery. So the whole discussion around the EY report gives us a problem if we don't seem to understand why you accepted the kind of position without a serious contestation. That's to say, look, we sponsored this so that you can ensure accountability and consequence management, and you just seem to accept it. It becomes a problem for us. I think the members here, we should find a way of following up on how this matter can be dealt with at the level of is there legislation that can be sponsored to deal with it. There are a number of other issues here that have been dealt with, and I will not go into any of them in detail, but I just want to say that our biggest concern moves from the issues of the Auditor General's report to say, even if it was good and it was all without any matters that were raised, we'll still be wanting to see how well you're managing service delivery. And ultimately it's all about service delivery. And so when we sit here and we go through all of this issue, we want to answer a question to the Auditor General that says, can we, after engaging with you, see an improvement next year when we come back? That there should be answers. Now, we were at a meeting with you a few months ago as the same committee when we met in a different setting. The same issues are arising, and they actually go back to the same issues that arose earlier on in the year. Now, when we meet, we want to be able to see progress, we want to see change, we want to see improvement, we want to see a sense of determination to change the situation. And in some instances, when you get more and more debate, it's because we're not seeing that. But having said all of that, we just want to emphasize the point that we were elected by the same people who elected you. And therefore, our responsibility is to hold you accountable at all levels. And at the end of it, our role is to make sure that our people, when they raise issues, they must trust that the public representatives are in a position to hold you responsible, and that we are also held accountable for all that needs to be done. But there's been a long discussion, and I hope really at the end of it there will be something that we'll have learned. We will prepare our own report. And thank you, Chairperson, and thanks to the members for everything, and thanks for the time you have given to this whole process. At this point, I think we have had a long enough day. We should call it quits. So thank you very much, Chairperson. If you could close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and safe travels back to Buffalo City. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I want to be there.
Yeah, we'll approach it because of the time is short.
Yeah.
When we approach it with a much more sharper.
Yeah.
Sure.